very last section that we're going to be covering before your test. And so what we have here is we have some formulas, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how the formulas that we have right now are going to be used to derive our new formulas. So if you look at this first one, it says sine of 2 theta equals. And so what I want you to do is think back to the formulas we had, the sum and difference formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent. And so now what I want you to do is think about, is there a way I could rewrite 2 theta?
2 what?
Is there a way that I could rewrite 2 theta?
You could write
Secant. Or sine.
sine.
Is there a way I can rewrite 2 theta? So is there something I could put in place of that?
Cosine theta?
Sine minus 1? No, that's squared.
Negative 2, no. Yep, negative 2 theta.
Okay, get off of the 2 theta. Is there another way that I could write 2x?
X divided by 2?
No.
Not x divided by 2, you're close, now you're on the right track.
1 over
2x
negative
over
x,
1?
2x. 1 over
2x over 1 would work, yeah. Is there a way that I could write 2x as maybe the sum or the difference of 2 terms?
X times
plus
2?
x.
X plus x. Okay, good.
Oh.
So then now I'm going to write 2 theta as theta plus theta. And so based on that, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now expand that using the sum formulas that you had. And so the sum formula that you had, remember, is sine of theta,
Cosine.
and so that's the first one, times cosine of theta, which is the second one. And then what I'm going to do, remember with sine held true that if I added the 2 angles, I'm going to add down here. Cosine was the opposite. And so then that's going to be plus cosine of theta times sine of theta. And then now in looking at that, you're going to notice that these are identical.
They are.
And if they're identical, that's going to equal 2 sine theta cosine theta. So what you're going to look at today is we're going to look at double angle formulas for sine, cosine, and tangent. So now with that in mind, right now what I want you to do real quick, with that same idea, I want you to do cosine of 2 theta for me. So along with that same thought that we just did with sine, I want you to do cosine. Tell me what you get.
Oh, okay. I'm dying fat. Don't worry about it, coughing. This guy will not get anyways.
So are you done then?
Wait, so if we add it, that means we subtract it.
Close.
Close.
You didn't quite simplify that step right. You've got the first step written correctly. The second step is a little off. Okay, let's not whistle.
I don't know what to do.
Same with you. You got your first step right. You just don't have it simplified correctly. First,
It's 2
Don't have
2
it
cos
simplified.
minus 2 sine.
Nope.
Simplify that. Yeah, I knew
no,
that.
that's not simplified correctly.
I knew that.
Did you get it figured out, Zach?
Oh,
Yeah. Well,
So what should it be?
I got it.
2 cosine theta
Not two-
minus.
not two.
cosine minus
No,
sine.
1.
Yeah.
No?
Cosine squared.
Cosine
Ah,
squared.
there you
Squared,
go.
yeah.
Cosine squared
I was
theta
getting to that. I was
minus
getting to that
sine
step.
squared theta. Because remember, cosine times cosine is cosine squared,
Yeah.
minus sine times sine, which is sine squared. Now, believe it or not, cosine, when you see cosine squared and sine squared, what should come to mind is your sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. And so there are actually 3 formulas that go with the cosine of 2 theta. Because what we can do is we can substitute in things for cosine squared and sine squared. So on this page, you're going to see there are 3 different formulas for cosine of 2 theta. We have already looked at
Do we need to put these?
sine of 2 theta. We have already looked at cosine of 2 theta in this form, and you're gonna be responsible for the other ones.
We're supposed to write
Okay.
this down.
It'd probably be a good idea to have them written down, yes. Okay, so first of all, sine of 2 theta equals 2 sine theta cosine theta. Cosine of 2 theta, there are 3 formulas. You see those. 2 cosine squared theta minus 1, 1 minus 2 sine squared theta, and cosine squared theta minus sine squared theta. And then last but not least, tangent of 2 theta equals 2 tangent theta divided by 1 minus tangent squared theta. So go ahead and get those down, and we'll continue when you're done. Okay, so continuing on, let's go ahead and look at an example. Oops.
Oops.
There we go. Notice what these instructions say. Find the values of sine of 2 theta, cosine of 2 theta, and tangent of 2 theta for the given value and interval. For the given value and interval. And so this is what your homework problems are going to look like in this section. So basically what we're going to do, okay, is we're going to have to plot where theta is. And so in looking at that, what you're going to do is you're going to look at this interval right here. And you're going to tell me in what quadrant is that? What quadrant is pi to 3 pi over 2? What is pi in terms of degrees?
180.
180.
So it's not.
So quadrant will be quadrant 3.
Yep.
Because this is actually 180 to 270. Now how could you know that that's 270 quickly?
Pink sheet.
Yeah, that would work. Or you could take 180 divided by 2, which is 90, and then take that times 3 and you get 270. So I'm just going to draw any triangle. It doesn't need to look a certain way. It just needs to be in quadrant 3. And now I need to draw a triangle in which sine is 7 over 25, and I can't forget the negative as well. So if this is theta, sine is the what side? Opposite over hypotenuse. Which one is negative? 7. So now you need to use the Pythagorean theorem to find the remaining third side. Or you could recognize this as a Pythagorean triple.
Is it?
Does anybody remember what that third side will be? If this is a Pythagorean triple, which it is?
24?
24, very good. So 7, 24, 25, that's Pythagorean triple, like 5, 12, 13, 3, 4, 5. And so now, what we need to do is we need to find sine of 2 theta. Sine of 2 theta from the formula equals 2 sine of theta times cosine of theta. So all we have to do now is plug in those individual values. I know that sine of theta from the problem is negative 7/25. I know that cosine of theta from the picture is negative what? Negative 24/25. Good. And so then now all I need to do is calculate that. The easy way to do that, take 2 times negative 7 times negative 24. Or you can just take 2 times 7 times 24. 2 times 7 times 24 is? What is it?
336.
336, thank you. Divided by 25 times 25, which is? 625. Okay? So that is what sine of 2 theta is. So that is your first answer. Now what we need to do is we need to go to cosine of 2 theta. So cosine of 2 theta,
Wait, isn't it sine of 2 theta? Not sine of theta, right?
yeah, it's sine of 2 theta. So cosine of 2 theta, you have 3 choices, 3 formulas you can use. If I were you, I would use the one that you can use with the given statement. The given statement here is sine, so I would use that 1 minus 2 sine squared theta equals cosine of 2 theta. Because then that way, if you've screwed up your drawing, you'll still be able to get that one correct. So when you see it says sine squared theta, what that means is that's just sine of theta, like this, squared. That's all it is. So all you need to do now is calculate that. And so we know that negative 7/25 squared is going to be 49 over 625. So you end up getting 1 minus 98 over 625, which comes out to be, what is that, 527
527 over 60.
over 625. So that's your second answer. Now what we need to do is find what tangent of 2 theta is. So tangent of 2 theta equals what? What was the formula?
2 tan theta over 1 is tangent squared theta.
2 tan theta over 1 minus tan squared theta. So 2 tangent theta is going to be 2 times tangent, which is 7/24, divided by 1 minus 7/24 squared. So really what ends up happening is I end up getting on the top, I get 7/12. On the bottom, I'm going to get 1 minus 49 over 576. So what does that come out to be? So 1 minus 49 over 576. 527 over 576. So now what I need to do is divide those. So I need to take 7/12, divide it by 527 over 576, which is the same as multiplying by 576 over 512.
512.
Or sorry, not 512, that was my script. It's 527. And when you do that, what do you end up getting? So 7/12, that is a fraction, times 576 over 527.
336 over 527.
336, I'm going to put that up here because I'm running out of room, over 527. Where does that look familiar? Where does 336 over 527 look familiar?
There's a 5 and a 7.
Oh, tangent equals sine over cosine.
Perfect. Tangent
Oh.
equals sine divided by cosine. So if you divide the blue by the orange, you're going to get 336 over
We don't
527.
even have to work that out.
Not really, if you remember.
Well, it's
that.
wise to, in case you may get the other two wrong.
Oh.
Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this one. Cosine of theta equals 3/5. Theta is from 0 to pi over 2.
That's one.
So what quadrant is that? 1. Good. So I'm going to go ahead and draw my triangle in quadrant 1. Here's theta, so cosine is what side over what side?
Opposite over, or adjacent over hypotenuse.
Adjacent over hypotenuse. So what's your missing side?
Yeah.
What's your missing side?
Six.
Opposites.
Your missing side is the value of what?
4.
4, thank you.
Yeah.
Here we go. So sine of 2 theta equals 2 times sine of theta. What's sine of theta?
4
4
over 5.
5. Cosine of theta is 3 over 5. So 2 times 4 times 3,
Is,
24 over 25. Good. So there's sine of 2 theta. Okay. Cosine of 2 theta. What formula are you going to use?
2 cosine squared minus 1.
2 2 cosine squared theta minus 1. So what does that equal, Ross?
What does that equal? Oh.
Yeah.
Cosine would be adjacent.
You want to help him, Kale?
3 over
Yeah,
4.
3/5.
Okay, so where do I put the 3/5?
Right.
2 parentheses 3/5 squared minus
Squared.
1. See, I did that. It's just zoning. You caught me red-handed.
Okay, so now 3/5 squared. So I end up getting 18 25ths minus 1, which is negative 7 25ths. So there you go, that's what cosine of 2 theta equals. Tan of 2 theta.
So will tangent just equal 24 over negative 7?
Negative 24%.
Tangent of 2 theta, if you divide the 2, you're going to get negative 24/7. And yes, you're correct. Now, you could use the formula. Obviously, it takes a lot more time, so you're better just to use the shortcut.
I got that.
I like this.
Alrighty, so now, very last thing. We're going to be solving equations now like we did in the lesson before. So if you notice what this says, it says solve each equation for 0 to 2 pi. So what that means is that you're going to be getting angles as your answer. Okay, so now it says sine of 2 beta minus sine of beta equals 0. Okay. So what do you think we're going to do?
Well,
Ideas?
use a formula.
Okay, use a formula. That's a good idea. So what formula?
One that we have written on the
Yep.
book.
2 sine beta cosine beta minus sine beta equals 0.
Yeah.
So all we did is substitute in place of sine of 2 beta, we substituted in our double angle formula. Now you notice each of the terms has a what?
Sine.
Sine. So let's factor it out. So if I take sine of beta out, I'm left with 2 cosine beta minus equals 0. So then now zero product property states that
They
either
both equal 0.
Sine equals 0,
sine equals 0
or 2 cosine beta. minus
Or-
1 equals 0.
2 cosine beta minus 1 equals 0. So in this case, sine equals 0, your pink sheet, your best friend, tells you that that occurs where? 0, where else?
Pi.
0, pi,
pi,
and
2
2 pi. The reason why we use 2 pi this time around,
It is included.
it's got a bracket. So now on the next one, I need to go ahead and solve that. So on this one, I get 2 cosine of beta equals 1.
Divided by 2.
So cosine of beta equals 1/2. So what values does cosine equal 1/2?
Pi over 3,
Pi over what?
3.
3 and
5 pi over.
5 pi over 3.
5 pi over 3.
Good. So you end up having 5 different solutions.
So 2 sine being times cosine, that doesn't mean there's 2 sines.
No. Nope, it's just a coefficient out front, kind of like 2x. So let's go and look at another one. We got 2 more of these we're going to look at. You're looking at a test probably Thursday, Friday of this week. So,
Just both days?
That's
Yep.
exciting.
Have we done 2-day tests all year?
cosine of 2 alpha equals negative sine squared alpha. Now in this problem, you've got sine squared alpha, so you can't really substitute anything as it is. Okay, but in place of the cosine of 2 alpha, you've got 3 choices. You've got 2 cosine squared minus 1, you've got 1 minus 2 sine squared, or you have cosine squared minus sine squared. So first of all, it doesn't make sense to put 2 cosine squared minus 1,
Not really.
because the problem doesn't have a cosine other than that.
Right.
You have 1 minus 2 sine squared. That makes a lot of sense because you already have a sine squared in the problem.
So if you add.
So now by doing that, what I can do to solve this
Add 2
is
sine
to add
squared.
2 sine squared to both sides.
And then square root, which is still 1.
So on the left side, you're left with 1. On the right side, you're left with
Sine
Sine
squared.
squared.
sine squared.
Square root.
So now in order to undo a square, you take the square root. What's the important thing?
Plus or
Plus
minus?
and
Plus or minus.
Why are you only looking at science?
So plus or minus 1.
Plus negative sign plus 2 sign.
So on your pink sheet, where is positive and negative 1 for sign?
Pi over 2
Pi over 2
and 3 pi over 2.
and 3 pi over 2. Any other values?
No.
No, those are your two answers.
We have to check on this?
No. The reason why you don't have to check is because you aren't squaring the problem. You aren't changing the problem any. So, very last one. Okay?
Oh, sweetness.
Sine squared alpha plus cosine 2 alpha minus cosine alpha equals 0.
Okay. So, we can substitute in something like that. Doesn't
You got to substitute in something here, but if you notice, the question is, well, what do you substitute in? Because I already have a cosine and a sine squared in the problem.
So tough.
Ideas.
I think you should do the cosine.
Ah. Good. Let's try to do the cosine squared
Yeah.
minus sine squared and see if that gets us anywhere.
Let's try it. Okay, let's see.
So next.
Now, what good did that do me?
Yeah, we can cancel out the signs.
Ah, you can cancel out the signs, and by doing that,
You're left with cosine.
you're left with cosine, and that's it. You're left with cosine squared alpha minus cosine alpha equals 0. Each of those terms has a cosine. So you have cosine alpha times cosine alpha
And the zero property.
minus 1 equals 0. Zero product property states that either cosine alpha equals 0
Or cosine equals
or cosine equals 1. Yep. So where does cosine equal 0?
0.
Share one.
Mm-mm. Where does cosine equal 0?
It equals it at pi over 2
Pi over
Oh,
2,
yeah.
and 3 pi over
3
2.
pi over 2. Okay, where does cosine equal 1?
0.
0 and
2 pi.
2 pi. So there you go. So questions? Pretty straightforward, solving equations using double angle formulas. Now that's not all for this lesson. There's actually half angle formulas, but we're not going to look at those. So this is what you need to do. On page 352, 1,
Is this a new
2
assignment?
through 8, the evens. This is a brand new assignment. Number 1, 2 through 8, the evens, 9 through 11, and then 13 and 14. Total of 10 problems. Number 1, number 2 through 8, the evens, 9 through 11, 13 and 14.